just not possible for me to show that. There we go. Snap ring removed. Well, not removed all the way, obviously. It's an external snap ring. I should just be able to push this through now, I believe. Now let's remove this one. Maybe it only goes one way. You know, maybe that this is assembled where both bearings are pressed against a seat. One bearing's pressed against a seat, and then the bearing and the shaft is pushed into the roller, and then the other bearing is installed on the shaft in the roller. Hope I can get that out there. This is how I'm going to attempt to press this shaft out. This is my drill press. This is the top of the quill. Now we can use a drill press as a press as long as we're careful and we don't ask too much of it. I've got the chuck closed up, pushing on the end of the shaft. The shaft can fall through the center hole in the drill press table. The roller is resting on the table. And what I'm going to do is press on the handle and load up the quill against the shaft, and then I'm going to shock the quill with a plastic hammer here. We never want to strike a piece of metal, especially part of a machine tool, with a metal hammer. This is only a 6-ounce plastic hammer. I really like these Craftsman plastic hammers. I have several of them around. This is the biggest one that I own. I own a couple this size. I just love the way they look, and they seem to me made well. And every mechanic needs a plastic hammer for a lot of different operations. There you go. I'll load this up and strike it and see if it moves. Yes. Now we can't get too crazy with this because I don't want to break my table off here. This is all cast iron and not really perfect for this situation, but good enough for light press work. It's not moving now. Loosen this table up. Okay, we're still hard up against the shaft. There, we moved. Now it's moving easy. It's about I can push it through. I want to catch the shaft underneath. I'll put my hand underneath. There we go. It didn't fall through. Let's see. I'm going to have to lower the table. There's no need to catch it because, of course, this bearing has remained on the shaft. Now, there's no seat, there's no edge there that stops the bearing from going too far. Alright. Okay, so now I can use the puller to remove this bearing, and I can drive this bearing out of the plastic roller. Ooh, did I crack it? No. I can push this bearing out of the plastic roller just by putting a dowel in here and tapping it with a hammer. Back over to the roll around toolbox. I have a hammer handle here. It's going to serve as a dowel. And I'll strike it with the plastic hammer. The bearing should come out easily. Yep, didn't take much at all. I probably could have smacked it with the palm of my hand. So that bearing's out. Now I'll get this bearing off the shaft and we'll use the conventional puller for that. You know, cloth on your workbench is a handy thing to keep stuff like this from rolling off. There we go. Amazing what you can do with a few simple tools. The bearings are removed from that shaft. They're removed from this shaft. Should have a fourth. Here we go. There's all four of our bearings. Now these things aren't terrible. They were making a little bit of noise when I would spin the wheels. So I'm going to clean them off and save them. They might be useful for some low RPM application, maybe to use in a wheel or something. Almost forgot. I'm going to remove the drive end motor bearing as well. It had a click in it. So there's that bearing removed. This bearing is a 6202 2RS, 2 rubber seal. I bought an exact replacement for that. I think all the new bearings that I bought for this project was about, I'm going to say about $11 or $12. So a small price to pay to have, you know, I'm going to do the work of cleaning this up and, you know, making it into as good a metal grinder as I can. Small price to pay to try to eliminate the possibility of any noise. So here's the new bearing. I notice the shaft is ground in steps. So that's where the pulley fits as a slip fit. This is larger, almost as big as where the bearing is pressed on. That's a little bit bigger, maybe 15-20 thousandths bigger. When I push this, it's okay to drive this bearing on with a hammer, but I want to only press on the inner race here. And this socket fits it nicely. Now I've got the other end of the shaft on a piece of wood, so I'm not going to damage the end of that. I should be able to drive this in place. Yeah, it's moving. I need a bigger plastic hammer. I'm going to buy this is a 6 ounce. I'm going to order or go by a Sears and pick up the 12 ounce version. It's like $12 or $13. About 1/8 of an inch to go. Press would be the preferred tool to do this. Down to about a 1/16 of an inch, if you can see that gap. There's a larger diameter area of the shaft here that the inner race will rest against. And there it is, I think it's there. So you can replace a bearing just that easy. So the armature is done. This is made the same way. Of course, it's a smaller bearing, so the bearing will slip right up to here, where it'll press on, and that's a lip that'll stop it. Wait a minute. Old bearing. I was able to wiggle that on there a little ways. My rig to push on the inner race of this bearing involves these washers that fit the shaft really nicely. And oh, that won't fit. And then I'm going to use this socket, spark plug socket, with a 1/2 inch drive inverted against those washers. And those are some pretty thick, heavy steel washers. And that'll let me drive this bearing into place while only driving on the center race. bearings home. Let's see. Now this, I don't have anything to align the bearing, and it would be easy to push it on crooked. Let me think about how I want to do this. Do this little strike, see if I can start it straight. No. We'll drive just on this edge. Seem to straighten it out. I gotta be careful, I can break the bearing. Okay, I think I'm about halfway through, so it's straight now. Yeah, so when it got straight, it moved easily. I'll make sure I can drive this home. The shaft doesn't fit up in there. Let me get a little smaller socket.